Welcome to the Beyond the Mat podcast, your one-stop shop for exclusive pro wrestling content.
My name's Rick Boogs, and I came to rock with the Beyond the Mat podcast that is beyond the M-A-T-T podcast. Ah!
All right, everybody, welcome to Beyond the Mat. We are here for the Raw post show of May 30th, 2022, live from Des Moines, Iowa, Seth Rollins' hometown. You could tell that it was Rollins' hometown during his promo with Cody Rhodes. He was getting all kinds of welcome home chants, and WWE really did a good job with that segment, creating the heat there going into this third match between the two of them. You had Seth Rollins down there really, having art imitate life in the promo, talking about all of the blunders that Cody had in WWE, leaving WWE, doing the things that were disrespectful to WWE while he was in AEW, and how WWE is Seth's place and he's not going to put up with him coming back there and assuming any kind of position of power when he did the things that he did, like destroying the throne with the sledgehammer. I really liked the way that they called back to those things. I didn't know if they would ever do that with creative, but they did. I thought that was a bold move, and it creates legitimate heat. The fans that know about that stuff, that follow the pro wrestling across the board closer than just the casual fans that may or may not even watch SmackDown or Raw every week, much less AEW, or keep up with Dirt Sheet stuff. This is really, really, really good way to have two guys, really portray that they have hatred towards one another. And I just really thought that segment was very well executed. It seemed at first like it was going to be another long Cody promo where he's using big words and, putting himself over. And, you could even feel the crowd get a little bit restless, maybe because he was in the feud with Rollins and the crowd was behind Rollins, being that it is his hometown. They were excited for him to come out in the crowd. I like that part of it too. That was a big part that made the crowd a little bit hotter. The crowd was good tonight. They were hot overall. But in this segment, you could tell that Cody wasn't really executing the promo and getting it with the crowd as well as he could have, especially in the beginning. He was even getting watered at some point. But Rollins' music hits, he gets on the mic. He was outstanding in his promo. I mean, scripted or not, whatever he did was very good. He is so good on the mic and so good playing the heel character that he plays. And that's what makes it okay for him to lose these matches, because he continues to come up with new ways to create heat, and it's legitimate and it feels important. And this brawl and this promo between the two, this really made it more of an emotional investment for me and more of an intriguing matchup than it already is. I already know that the wrestling is going to be great with the two of them. They're going to be inside the cell, and they'll do a great job utilizing that cell to have a great match. But having this whole brawl sequence and having 12 guys had to tear them apart really made it just feel like a blood feud, and that's what you want for a Hell in a Cell situation. So I thought they did an excellent job with that, because a lot of people can easily criticize and say, okay, they had a match at WrestleMania, rematch at Backlash. Now they're going to Hell in a Cell. It's so predictable. but it was not predictable that Seth Rollins was going to bring up that AEW stuff and he was going to run down Cody about not being able to live up to his expectations of following his dream and, making his father proud and all those things. It was not predictable that they were going to go there with that. They did, and I thought they did a great job with it. And that was really one of the best parts of the night for me. There was other great parts tonight, but we will start from the top. But first of all, I do want to invite you all to join us on Patreon. $1 tier is the lowest tier, and if you join earlier than July 31st, I will grant you access to everything you would get for the $10 tier. You will get merchandise, ad-free content, early access to the bonus content I'm getting ready to release, including all of our watch logs. We're going to go right through the Attitude Era with all of our watch logs, every single Raw, every pay-per-view from the Montreal Screwjob on. That's going to be exciting to get into. We're also on Twitter at BeyondMattWWE. You can also email us, matt@beyondthemat.com. Anything you'd like, we will address it on the show as long as it's not offensive. And of course, patrons, you have the ability to come on the show at any time, but I just want to clarify that the shows you are able to join are any of the premium live event prediction shows or any of the fixed shows that I do with Kyle on a weekly basis. Kyle did miss last week, but Kyle will be back on this week with me for the fix. And so that's just to clarify with the patrons which shows that they are welcome to join us on, and any of them are available. Just let me know which one you want to join. Moving on from there, we had Becky Lynch tonight, starting off the show, coming out to do a promo. Becky's out here talking about how she gave Asuka her title and that made Asuka entitled and not work hard for anything. This brings out Asuka. Got Asuka coming out doing the baby crying cosplay bit that she does to Becky all the time. And she continues to mock Becky in broken Japanese and then say that nobody's ready for Asuka, not Bianca or Becky. Then we get Bianca coming out. She says that she's not complaining, that she has to take on not one but two people at the pay-per-view, and that she's going to take care of Asuka tonight. And that basically took us right into the match. Becky did try to get a cheap shot in on Bianca Belair. They then double teamed her, did Bianca and Asuka. Got a double team in on Becky. They ended up sending her out of the ring. We went to a commercial, and then we got our match with Bianca Belair and Asuka, with Becky at ringside wearing her Power Ranger glasses. It wasn't a bad match at all. Good match between the two of them. The real story here was all about Asuka and her submission abilities and her submission skills. She's a submission specialist. She was doing all sorts of submission maneuvers on Bianca, and Bianca continued to power out of them with her athleticism. And the finish saw Bianca roll through an attempted armbar submission lock and get the 1-2-3 for the win with the roll-up style pin. Now, during the match, Becky's saying that, last week's win got her the confidence she needs to go into Hell in a Cell and win. Bianca had a nice delayed vertical suplex in the match, and typical work by both of them. A lot of submissions, like I said, by Asuka, and a lot of power moves by Bianca Belair. We had her get up on the top ropes and do the butt slapping gimmick. And, we had one part where we had an armbar into a triangle by Asuka, turned into Bianca powering out of it, and then throwing her ringside. That took us into a commercial. That was a pretty cool spot there. If I were to go back and watch the match, I would definitely look at that one. Bianca did hit a really nice looking fallaway slam. They were putting over Bianca's strength here, obviously, because she is very athletic. Asuka got distracted at one point by Becky, and Bianca took advantage of this, but ended up eating a drop kick off of the top rope by Asuka because she took a little bit too long trying to take advantage of the opening created by the distraction. Like I say, the finish sees Asuka attempt an armbar on Bianca. Bianca roll through for the roll-up victory. And then Becky Lynch gets into the ring, gets rid of Bianca Belair, sends her out front. Manhandle slams Asuka. Bianca gets back into the ring, and she gets manhandle slammed by Becky as well. So we go home into Hell in a Cell, into the three-way Raw Women's Championship match with Becky Lynch standing tall in the ring, having manhandle slammed Bianca and Asuka. During the pre-match promo, when Becky made the cheap shots, there was a situation where we had Belair have the KOD set up for Becky. Becky squeezed out of it, but she ended up eating a running hip attack by Asuka. So Becky got hers in the beginning, but at the end of the match, she stood tall. Go home math here is really showing me that Bianca is going to go over here. She's going to be able to have the strength and the power to overcome Asuka's submission abilities. Becky's heel tactics are not going to be able to be enough to win this match. She was standing tall here at the end, which clearly shows me she's not going to be standing tall at the end of Hell in the Cell. But it was nice to see them have some variance here. Becky's been getting her ass kicked a lot by a lot of different people. And, it was good to see them put Bianca and Asuka in a match together to see how those two mesh. And now we have a triple threat to look forward to with all three of them. And it'll be a different style match. And they can tell a story between the three of them, all fighting the three different styles that they fight. I thought the story that they told in the ring tonight was very, very well done. It was basically all about Bianca Belair and her strength, being able to overpower the submission specialties of Asuka. Like I said, I really liked that. I liked that they worked that in there. I thought both ladies did a terrific job of doing it. I thought Becky was terrific in her promo, terrific on the commentary, not saying too much. And overall, I thought this was a great way to open the show. I didn't expect it to because I didn't get a run sheet for the show. WWE did not release a run sheet at all up until about 8 o'clock Eastern time, which was the start of the show. So I had no idea what to expect about this show at all. Moving on from the opening segment, we now have a good opportunity to take a first commercial break. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to get into the rest of the show. I just want to let you guys know that if you want the show ad-free, $1 is all you got to pay on Patreon, and you will get all the shows with no ads whatsoever. We will be right back after this.
The Beyond the Mat Podcast. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Beyond the Mat Podcast.
We get the Mysterios in Zeke versus KO and the Alpha Academy in a 6-man tag match. This one's always interesting when you got KO out here and Gable as well. They're very funny people. They're very comedic, and, they're excellent at what they're doing right now, especially considering the fact that they're having to work with Zeke and they're working with Mysterios here, who are pretty boring for the most part, aside from some of the good spots that Rey Mysterio is able to do. So, Dom, at one point in this match, gets rid of Gable out front. We got a triple team on Otis finally by both Mysterios and Zeke to get Otis out of the ring. Gable takes advantage, though, of all three of them trying to get rid of Otis, gets Dominic. When they're distracted, he plants him ringside into the barricade. We end up going to a commercial. We come back. We got KO locking the sharpshooter on Dom. it was really funny watching KO lock this sharpshooter on and turn himself perfectly square with Rey Mysterio to just eat a double drop kick by Mysterio, get knocked out. Otis gets tagged in here eventually, runs wild, beats the hell out of Dominic, goes for a really nice looking Vader splash, but Dominic rolls out of the way, tags in Zeke. Finish sees a double 619 on Kevin Owens. He gets rolled right back into Zeke for a big delayed suplex. Gets pinned for the 1-2-3. After the match, KO freaks out, starts tearing up the announce table, starts tearing up all the papers that the announcers are reading from. I'm laughing here. I'm trying not to laugh. He jumps over the table and yells at Jimmy Smith and Byron Saxton. He calls them liars, and it is just hilarious the way that commentary was nervous about KO here. KO is completely making this thing with Ezekiel actually interesting. And again, just like the Cody and Seth feud, just like the Asuka, Belair, and Lynch match, they did something here to make the match at Hell in a Cell feel a little bit more heated and a little bit more important and a little bit more intriguing. And I'm more intrigued and more interested now because of the way that Kevin Owens is completely losing his mind because he just got pinned by Ezekiel. Granted, it was after Ezekiel was just standing there waiting for KO to get 619, but it was an absolutely hilarious and excellently performed bit there by Kevin Owens to demonstrate his frustration with Ezekiel. And the story here is that he just cannot deal with the fact that Elias or Ezekiel or whoever it is claiming that they're Ezekiel, and other people are agreeing with that he's Ezekiel, and it's just driving him crazy. Drove him so crazy he had to go to SmackDown and talk to Sami Zayn about it and get Sami Zayn to be on his side. And you could just see the hug between him and Sami Zayn meant so much to Kevin Owens' character that somebody believed what he was talking about. So that happening on SmackDown, as well as what happened tonight with him totally going ballistic after losing to Ezekiel, is just an outstanding way to show how this is affecting Kevin Owens, and Kevin Owens is just knocking it out of the park. It was also really interesting how Gable and Otis were pissed off at Kevin Owens because that made Kevin Owens even more frustrated, and they just really illustrated the frustration KO has about all this and why the match is happening. And that's why they do things like this. And that's why you have to give feuds like this time, because even if it's not the best match, even if it's not between the best guys, KO is somebody who can make the match interesting by the way that he acts and the way that he feels. You can feel the same frustrations that he is displaying. And that is something that is very hard to do. And it's something that I think makes him and people like Seth Rollins interesting and makes them almost invincible as far as whether they win or they lose, because they are so good at demonstrating what those wins and losses do to them and why it is important for them to continue fighting all the time. So these are two of the best I've seen KO and Seth with their promos in a really long time. And we have KO working with a guy who we all know isn't who he says he was. And we got Seth Rollins working with Cody Rhodes. So this is really, really good promo work by the two of them. It's the best I've seen in a really long time. Next up, we had the Cody promo with Rollins. We'll skip through that since we already talked about it. We had Miz TV with the Street Profits. We had the Street Profits out here basically clowning Miz the whole time. The purpose of this was really to serve as a way for the fans to endear themselves a little bit more to the Street Profits, because recently they've feuded with RK Bro and they've done some nasty things, and they played the Usos music and they did a couple dirty things that were sort of heelish, but WWE doesn't want them to be seen as heels. They don't want them to be a heel act. They are a good babyface act. People do like them, and they're not turning them. So they have them come out here with The Miz, and you insult The Miz, you're going to get some babyface love. They did a hilarious bit where they asked Miz what he thought and said, it doesn't matter what you think about Hell in the Cell. And then the 24/7 stuff started, and they were sitting on the director's chairs on the Miz TV set watching it all happen. Montez Ford got up a couple different times and laid a punch into somebody, drop kicked somebody else. Dana Brooks started this one out. She ended up getting pinned by Tamina, and then Tamina and Tozawa were out there celebrating, and Tozawa rolled up Tamina and walked away as the new 24/7 champion. He then went up to the top and was standing at just in front of the gorilla position at the top of the entrance. And I'm thinking to myself, they're zooming in very close. Somebody's going to attack him and he's going to lose right now. And he never did. So Akira Tozawa is a 24/7 champion right now, if anybody cares about the 24/7 championship. But I thought that this was actually pretty decently done for it being a 24/7 segment and Miz TV, which are two of my least favorite parts of Monday Night Raw. I thought the Miz TV served a purpose. People say, why are the Street Profits around here? Why are they doing it? They had the Street Profits out here to get them some babyface love, because you put Miz with anybody and they're going to get that. And the Street Profits need that because there's people who think they're heels for messing with Riddle and Randy Orton. And so they're out there, and then they get involved with the 24/7 stuff a little bit and do some funny things. And they, get themselves over with the crowd that way. The 24/7 segment wasn't long. They weaved it in here. We saw T-Bar out here actually hit a really nice pump handle slam. And me, the reason T-Bar was involved in this 24/7 segment out of nowhere is because this was their way of putting him on TV, reminding the Raw audience of who he is. I know he's been wrestling on Main Event, but, reminding the audience that watches Monday Night Raw that he's there, and he is going to be the next member of the Judgment Day faction. And this is going to be him interfering in the 6-person mixed gender tag match for Hell in a Cell, with Edge, Rhea Ripley, and Priest taking on AJ Styles, Liv Morgan, and Finn Balor. We're going to see interference or some kind of post-match beatdown, whatever they decide to do, and it's going to involve T-Bar, and he is going to be the new member of Judgment Day. That's my prediction for what's going to happen. Now, I don't know if it'll happen that way, but I do have it on pretty good confidence that T-Bar is going to be the next member. It was heavily rumored to be Ciampa. At one time, it was rumored to be Roderick Strong. Roderick Strong did not work out, obviously, but there's been a couple of different people that Edge has wanted to work with, and I know that T-Bar is one of the people that they're planning on doing, and Ciampa may have fallen through. Ciampa had the match tonight with Ali, which was supposed to be a number 1 contenders match for the U.S. title, and Theory was at ringside and ended up getting involved in this match. But before he did, Ciampa controlled most of this match almost the entire time. Ali did get an upper hand once he got up to the top rope to make a move here. Theory tore him down and beat him up ringside, grabbed the mic and said, listen, you just won by DQ, so let's have our championship match now. He then gets Ali into the ring. The referee's asking Ali, does he want the bell to be rung? Does he want the match to happen? Ali says yes. Theory then takes advantage of Ali the entire time. Ali's beaten down. We see the finish come when Ali finally gets in control after nailing Theory with a tornado DDT, goes up top, but Theory crouches him on the turnbuckle, hits his finish, the ATL, and wins the match 1, 2, 3. He retains his U.S. title, And as he's taking his selfies and celebrating, Adam Pearce comes out and says, listen, Mr. McMahon really liked the psychological tactics that you used there by having the match when Mustafa Ali was already down and battered from his previous match, that you caused him to win via DQ. However, you are going to defend that U.S. title again in a rematch at Hell in a Cell. So we got another Hell in a Cell match, another build-up and some heat added to it. We have Theory now thinking that he can beat Ali after that, but also possibly second-guessing himself because he's going to be facing a fresh Ali now, not a beat-up Ali. And we have Ali getting another chance. I thought that if they were just going to do this to Ali and this be his only title shot, that it was really, really, really rough to do that to him. But the fact that they did it this way and they're going to give him a match on the pay-per-view or the pre-show, because let's be honest, this kind of screams pre-show match. If there is going to be any pre-show matches, there hasn't been any pre-show matches, I think, since the last Saudi show. But if there is one, this could be it. Either way, I think it's a good match to have. They could have a solid 10 to 15 minute match between the two of these guys. They're good in the ring. Ciampa looked good in the ring too. Like I said, I don't know what they're doing with him with the Judgment Day stuff, but I liked the way that he worked in the ring. He's a little bit different style than some of the other guys, and it's nice to see that kind of style. He kind of has the Butch style where he's a bruiser and a joint manipulator and just very smooth in the ring. I like seeing his work. Want to see more of it. Ali does a good job too. I think he's a little weak on the microphone, but Theory did what he needed to do here. Got a lot of heat, was a total prick, and really did a good job of being that prick and taking advantage of the situation, trying to retain his title in a cheap way. But Mr. McMahon evidently texted Adam Pearce and said, hell no, this isn't happening. I want to see him defend it on the pay-per-view, so that's what we're going to see. Again, another reason why I like this episode of Raw is because they addressed the storyline and they made it stronger or more intriguing, and this definitely makes it stronger and more intriguing. The way that Theory overconfidently tried to take advantage of this, and then he ended up getting shafted with having to defend it at Hell in a Cell. Our next match of the night was Riddle and Nakamura versus the Usos. This was the big match of the night that they had the clock for, counting down to it, happening at the 10 o'clock hour, just like they were doing for the Cody promos for a couple of weeks. I like the way they do that with the big match that they want to promote and want people to see, or the big promo they want everybody to tune into. It allows people who maybe might not tune into the entire show know when the big spot's going to be, and I got no problem with it. So we know this match is coming at 10 o'clock. I think Riddle on screen with anybody makes that other person exponentially more entertaining, and I think that he's doing that to Nakamura, and that's part of the reason why they're putting Riddle with Nakamura. It's not just like Randy Orton was with Riddle to build Riddle back up. Look at it the other way. Riddle was with Orton to give Orton a different side, a more entertaining, a lighter side. And now they're using Riddle to help build Nakamura and enhance his character. Nakamura is eventually going to be one of the minor challengers to Roman Reigns. Riddle's most likely the next challenger to Roman Reigns, but they're starting it with having them in a tag team together and feuding with the Usos, which obviously attaches them to feuding with the Bloodline as a whole, and is going to lead to either both of them or just Riddle getting a title opportunity this summer, most likely at SummerSlam or Money in the Bank. We don't know. Obviously, all know the news about Money in the Bank moving to the MGM Grand Garden rather than Allegiant Stadium. WWE did this because they sold about 17,000 tickets for Allegiant Stadium. Their profit margin is a little bit more tickets than that. They didn't want to risk not making a profit, but if they sell 17,000 or 15,000 or whatever, they can sell in the MGM Grand, the profit margin for a smaller building like that is probably around $8,000. So they can make a profit, even if it's not as big, doing it out of a smaller arena. I don't know that it has anything to do with the fact that nobody cares about Money in the Bank. I think it's more about how people are traveling these days. There was a big boom in travel when the pandemic slowed down, and getting into Vegas and doing all that in the middle of the summer may not be something that everybody wants to do, or 40,000 worth of people want to do right now. And I just think the timing of it is what caused this to happen. I don't think it's that the product isn't good. They had more tickets pre-sold for Allegiant Stadium than the MGM Grand holds. So I don't know how this is going to work out for all the people who have priority to get tickets for the MGM Grand. If all 17,000 people who bought tickets for Money to make it Allegiant Stadium go after tickets for MGM Grand, it's going to be more tickets than MGM Grand can even hold. So that's crazy. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about Riddle and the Usos, and we are going to get into that when we are right back.
The Beyond the Mat Podcast. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Beyond the Mat Podcast.
All right, so we had the new team here of Nakamura and Riddle. It was an interesting match here because it wasn't our typical RK Bro match. You know, it was sort of a typical Riddle tag team match where he took a lot of beatings, but we saw some different tag team, double team work between Nakamura and Riddle. We also saw a couple different hot tag situations where Riddle ran wild and Nakamura ran wild. Like the part where Riddle got a hot tag, came in, ran wild, hit his exploder suplex, and the Broton went for the draping DDT. But Jay sent him ringside. He did not see that Nakamura got the hot tag. Nakamura comes in, nails him with the Kinshasa right in the face. Jay blocked an RKO after Riddle did hit the draping DDT. And then we end up, with this one ending in a DQ, because the Usos try to use the scooter that Riddle rides to the ring as a weapon. The referee saw it, ends in a DQ. And so this championship contenders match, which was for the unified titles for Nakamura and Riddle to have the opportunity to have a match for them, it was won by Nakamura and Riddle. And now we have a match. I don't know if it's at Hell in the Cell or when it's going to be, but we have a tag match between Nakamura and Riddle versus the Usos, which I would imagine, if it's not at Hell in the Cell, that Roman Reigns is going to get involved in it, and then it's going to start something serious between Roman Reigns and Riddle, or we may continue to see Nakamura and Riddle go together as a tag team. Not really sure how soon they're going to get into the Riddle singles program, but he's definitely the next in line for Roman Reigns. Usos did a great job here with their heel tactics, doing the double team stuff on Riddle, with their timing, their poses, beating the hell out of Riddle and just stomping him, choking him on the ropes. They're very good at being a heel tag team and staring down the crowd and making the facial expressions that you want to see out of a heel team. I thought they were doing a really good job. WWE really likes using these DQ finishes lately in different ways that end up causing something to happen. They did the DQ finish in the championship contenders match for the US title, and they did it in the championship contenders match here. And, you can say what you want about DQs and roll-ups. If it makes sense and it progresses the storyline, that's fine. Obviously, the Usos are getting frustrated with the fact that Riddle and Nakamura are kind of taking them to school in the ring. So their heels, they grab the scooter and hit Riddle in the face with it. They were hanging him over the ropes and choking him all match long. So that was that. We now have an upcoming championship match for the unified tag belts between Nakamura and Riddle and the Usos. So we'll see what happens with that, where it leads to as far as singles. And then our final match of the night before we got to the contract signing was a single match between Morgan and Ripley. The story here was really that Ripley is overpowering the hell out of Morgan. Everything that Liv Morgan tried here, Ripley just overpowered it, told her she was pathetic. And I'll be honest with you, I was really glad we did not get a Judgment Day promo tonight because they're getting very insufferably boring to me. I wasn't a huge fan of the way Rhea Ripley presented herself here. I don't like the way Rhea Ripley presented herself as a babyface either, because she was too smiley and too much of a babyface. But there's a happy medium. There's a way to be a heel without looking completely disengaged with reality and just having this complete blank and evil look on her face the entire time. It just doesn't do it for me. But we get in this match, Liv's on Rhea's back at different times and gets rammed into every single corner. Liv gets in control at one point with some nice kicks and a step up in Seguri. She charges the corner with a nice back elbow splash, sends Rhea ringside after ramming her head into the ring post, and does a diving crossbody. Nice looking there. There was another spot where she went for a Hurricane Rana off the apron to a ringside Rhea, and Rhea blocked it and turned it into a really nice looking barricade bomb. So the two of them were really going at it with each other. Damian Priest had run into this match, as did AJ Styles, and Priest tried to block the Oblivion attempt by Liv Morgan on Rhea Ripley when she was attempting to win the match. Rhea sets her up for the Riptide, but Liv slides out of that, hits a backstabber for the 1-2-3 post-match. We got Priest trying to attack AJ Styles. We got Rhea in there. Then we eventually see Finn Balor run in and take out Priest, as Rhea then stares down AJ and Balor and doesn't realize that Liv Morgan's on the top rope. She nails her off the top rope. Then we see AJ hit the phenomenal forearm on Priest, who falls down and runs right into a coup de grace by Finn Balor, and we get a too sweet moment in the middle of the ring between Liv Morgan, AJ Styles, and Finn Balor. Nice moment there. I like the too sweet stuff they're doing. They're going to have a 6-person mixed tag match at the pay-per-view. I don't know how that's going to work because this mixed tag stuff is crazy. The way that the men tag in and the women had to get out of the ring and the men touch the women. I mean, who's the hell is going to know how that's going to work out? But what I can see happening is a new member of Judgment Day. Like I say, most likely T-Bar getting involved and helping Judgment Day win this match. We had the baby faces standing tall on the Go Home show. So it makes sense to see the heels go over at the pay-per-view. If it results in them getting another member and furthering the storyline, I'm fine with that. But at the end of the day, that would mean that we'd have to sit through another Judgment Day promo explaining why they found this other member, and that may be pretty annoying on Raw, just for me anyway. But at the end of the day, I'm an AJ fan, I'm a Balor fan, and I like the fact that they have Liv Morgan working with them, helping her along. I like the way that we have people being helped by Edge, even though I'm not a huge fan of the faction or, the promos and all that. So I think it's an interesting feud here. They added some interesting elements to it with Balor running in and all the stuff with the finishers at the end, and the way that Rhea is just overpowering Liv Morgan, and she needs these two men to help her to even the odds against each other. It's a decent story. Should be a good match of the pay-per-view, despite the fact that it's a mixed tag. I'm not really a huge fan of those because it's just weird to have men fighting women. But at the same time, it's an interesting feud with a lot of star power. So should be good for the pay-per-view. Another match, another sequence where we got some heat and some extra added intrigue to our story for the pay-per-view. And that's what you want from a go-home show. Lately, there's been people that have said, like, this episode wasn't as good and this felt like a weird episode. And they were doing, you have to think about it. It's episodic television, and, a show that I think a lot of us have probably seen is Breaking Bad. And, there's episodes that weren't as good as others in that, but the overall seasons were awesome. And the finales were great. And think of WrestleMania as your season finale every season. There's episodes within that lead up to the season finale that, have to set up certain things that make the end episode, the finale, so great. And sometimes, you can't see where they're going with it. Like the Fly episode in Breaking Bad. A lot of people thought that was a boring, weird episode, but there's parts of that episode that mean something down the line. So that's what happens with all the episodes of Raw and SmackDown. There's things that happen that mean something down the line. Sometimes they don't feel like they mean anything right away, but if you give them time, most of the time they add up to something for a premium live event, or even eventually add up to something for WrestleMania. So I applaud WWE for really hitting every segment with something that affects what they're doing storyline wise for their pay-per-view. The last segment of the night, we had MVP and Bobby Lashley, MVP with Omos, having a contract signing for the stipulation that MVP picked, it being a handicap match at Hell in a Cell. They go back and forth talking crap. It ends up with Bobby Lashley tossing the table and throwing it out of the ring. We have Omos throwing the chairs out of the ring. We have 13 guys coming to the ring as security guards trying to break them up. Omos gets rid of 6 guys. Lashley gets rid of 6 guys. They start to throw down. We have Bobby Lashley dodge a charging Omos, hit him with an elbow, and then he gets chop blocked from behind by Cedric Alexander, who came out of nowhere. Bobby gets the upper hand, wipes out Alexander, but then eats a big boot from Omos. MVP then calls for a table, so Omos gets a table, sets it up in the corner of the ring. They go to throw Bobby Lashley through this table, and Lashley spears Omos through the table to go off the air. So again, we got a little bit of added heat here for this feud. We got Bobby Lashley saying that he's just going to have the opportunity to kick both their asses at the same time rather than him being handicapped in this match. I thought Lashley handled this promo probably one of the better that I've ever seen from him. You keep it simple with him and you keep it with some passion and some heat behind it, and he's going to bring it. If you give him too much stuff to memorize, there's going to be something that he messes up somewhere. I thought he did a good job here. Thought MVP did a great job being the antagonist. And this is really going to be a match where we're going to see how MVP can do in the ring and how Bobby Lashley can really carry this, because he's the one who's really experienced and going to be carrying Omos, going to be carrying MVP through this. I think Lashley's going to go over both of them at the pay-per-view because they're trying to build Lashley as a big baby face. It would certainly make Omos look weaker to lose in a handicap match, but I think that they're putting MVP in this situation for Lashley to pin MVP. The story here obviously has been mainly between MVP and Lashley. MVP saying that Lashley is nothing without him and that Lashley left him high and dry at WrestleMania and all that stuff. Lashley obviously claiming that he didn't need any MVP and he's been almighty all along. So we'll see what happens on Sunday at Hell in a Cell. But that pretty much wraps up tonight's Raw. Like I said, it was pretty good. I'm not going to say too much more about it. We will talk about it on the Fix with Kyle. Please get in some questions at Beyond Matt WWE on Twitter, Matt at BeyondTheMat.com for email. Like us on Facebook, Twitter, or wherever you can find us. Leave us a 5-star rating or a positive review if you'd like to take the time to do that. And join us on Patreon to get rid of those nasty, annoying ads that pop up and you don't want to hear them because you want to listen to me. So I will catch you guys next time. And until then,
I think I'm going to go to the nearest nudie bar and have a drink.
Thanks for listening to Beyond the Mat. Remember to subscribe so you don't miss a show.